Hi, I'm a middle school dropout, and I'm planning on changing the world. When I was 12, I convinced my parents to let me drop out of school and start homeschooling myself, which, as you can imagine, was a really fun conversation. My parents are awesome. A month later, I started a website called MuggleNet, which became the #1 Harry Potter website. If you're a Harry Potter fan, there's a good chance that at some point you have stumbled across this website. Now, the website generated about 50 million page views a month. And to put that into a little bit of context, MuggleNet had one of the biggest forums online, one of the biggest fan fiction sites, one of the biggest interactive RPGs. We had the #1 podcast in the world, not just for Harry Potter, but for all podcasts. We published 3 books, one of which was a New York Times bestseller that spent about 6 months on the list and reached the #2 spot. Found out later that we were 30 copies away from #1. Had I only known. I also was lucky enough to receive a magical call from a very special British woman who, so it was 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was sleeping, and my dad comes bursting in the room with a panicked look on his face and a phone in his hand, and he says, "Emerson, it's Joe." I'm thinking, why is some guy named Joe calling me at 8 o'clock in the morning? So he answers the phone. I sound like Barry White. Hello? Hello, Emerson. This is Joe. Joe Rowling. Oh, hey, what's up? She wanted to know if I'd be interested in coming to her house in Scotland and interviewing her on the day of the release of the 6th book. Interested. But I played it cool. I said, "Joe, let me check my schedule. Maybe I can fit you in. Our people will talk." Now, she is the coolest, most down-to-earth person, and we're basically BFFs now because it was supposed to be a 1-hour conversation, ended up going for 2 hours. Again, BFFs. So anyway, I learned a ton throughout this process. I had every experience that you could possibly imagine. We went on tour. We lived like rock stars. The publishers gave us $100 a day in spending money on tour, which is like when you're that age, just buying dollar menu McDonald's stuff is basically like a fortune. And it was awesome. So throughout that process, I learned a little bit of everything. I learned how to code, how to write, how to edit, how to lead, how to manage, how to design. I had to grow up really fast because I was managing a part paid, part volunteer staff of about 120. So I kept my age a fiercely guarded secret, thinking that there would be a mass exodus of my teammates when they realized that they were working for a little kid. Fortunately, that was not the case, and they were tolerant and understanding, and they actually respected me more when they found out my age. But I still had to go on the phone and use a really deep voice when I was talking to grown-ups so they wouldn't find out my age. It was obviously the fakest thing in the entire world, and they knew for sure that I was a kid pretending to have a deep voice. So aside from MuggleNet, which gave me this tremendous wealth of new experiences, my parents pretty much stayed out of my way, and they let me study whatever I wanted. But one thing they did do, which was really smart, was they had me read 4 short biographies of successful people every day. This, as you can imagine, just shattered my little 12-year-old brain into about 10,000 pieces. And I started to think really big. And I remember having this epiphany. I thought to myself, if I can do all this, and I'm only 12, imagine what I can do when I'm 17. Of course, an impossibly old age. And I decided that I wanted to change the world. And I wanted to do it on a massive scale. So I began further immersing myself into the lives of people who had already changed the world to see what patterns I could extract from their experiences. Now, in doing this, I realized that the more influential you are, the more impact you could create. So that set in motion for me a lifelong fascination with influence. And there was one particular type of influence that really captured my imagination, which was virality. I thought, if you can make things go viral, that's like the closest you can get to having a superpower. You could tip elections, you could overthrow dictators, you could start movements, you could revolutionize entire industries. So fast forwarding a bit, I decided to go to college for fun. Terrible reason to go to college, by the way. Got bored really fast, and I was going to drop out and start another business. But before I did, I wanted to identify a model that would maximize my probability of getting to $1 billion by the time I was 30, which is a ridiculous goal. But I figured, statistically speaking, I'll probably get 3-ish swings by the time I'm 30, so how do I maximize the probability of that happening? So I wanted to go as broad as possible. I wanted to be able to connect dots and see patterns between different disciplines and industries. So I set a goal of reading 1 nonfiction book every day until graduation. Business, politics, psychology, economics, technology, science. It wasn't just books. It was going through SEC filings, 10Ks, research, abstracts, textbooks. It was studying thousands of individual companies looking for patterns, studying industries, everything from drywall contracting to natural gas wholesaling. But it was actually a 3-part process. So there was reading, reviewing, and rehearsing. Because it's not just learning information. You have to be able to remember it, and you have to be able to apply it. So as far as being able to remember the information, I spent the first 6 months doing a really deep dive into the neuroscience of learning and memory, because learning how to learn is literally the most important thing you can learn. It provides an exponential return on the time you invest in it. It's like wishing for more wishes. Anyway, built a lot of crazy systems, won't go into detail on that. Third part of the process was rehearsal, where I wanted to get my 10,000 hours of experience in. So I did all kinds of crazy things, came up with formulas and acronyms, and I don't have time to go into all that. But suffice it to say, I got I learned a lot. And I got really obsessed with this notion of probability of success and virality. And I had my big aha moment. It was the kind of insight that if I was an academic, I would have started publishing papers on it. But I'm not an academic. I'm an entrepreneur. So I just started doing it right away. I developed a series of algorithms designed to get Facebook pages to go viral, and created dozens of pages that went from 0 to millions of fans over a period of a few hours to a few days. So massively viral. And I was having the time of my life. I was basically, I got to the point where I was testing different variables and seeing which variables correlated positively to virality, and then I just kept shortening the viral loop until I could tell within 20 seconds if a page was going to go viral. It was awesome, and I was able to do it on Twitter, get millions of followers on Twitter, YouTube, Tumblr, websites, apps, worked on every platform. Now I started a company, and well, you'd be shocked to hear this, we make websites that go viral. And now we've got an audience of around 25 million people who visit our sites every month. And we're in the business of cracking the code of virality, figuring out the science behind the art. And I don't have time to go into too much detail on what that means. You've probably heard of some of our sites, like OMG Facts, the #1 fact site, a website with funny iPhone autocorrects that went pretty viral a couple years ago. I apologize deeply for that one. A bunch of meme sites, humor sites, a website called Gives Me Hope, where people share uplifting and inspiring true personal stories, a website where people share their secrets. And one thing I wanted to talk about is that Chicago Ideas Week is about a community of curiosity. And I may be one of the most curious people in the entire world. But one thing that I really, really wish that I would have known early on is that there's this quote that is almost like vomitastically obvious, but at the same time really meaningful, which is that if you find something you love to do, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And everyone's heard that quote, but no one really knows what to do with it. Like, yeah, sure, that's really easy for you to say, but I've got to pay the bills and so on. Well, the shortcut to doing that is to just figure out what you're actually passionate about that you can also get paid to do. And it's actually not that hard to figure that out. All you have to do is try way more stuff than you're trying right now. Finding your passion is like falling in love. You date enough people, you're going to fall in love. You guys are just not dating enough if you haven't figured out what you're passionate about that you can also make money doing. A lot of people here are passionate about video games and things that you won't get paid to do, but again, just date around more. Two more things very quickly. One is that also, by the way, you don't have to ever figure out how to motivate yourself if you find your passion. So there's that. One other thing is that you should drop your loser friends. This one's targeted at the kids in the room. I'm not your parent, but I'm going to pretend to be for a second. And everybody's got like 1 or 2 friends that are total sinkers, and you're not going to rescue them, you're not going to save them, and they will drag you down with them. You need to do what is best for you, which is to move on and upgrade. Thank you all so much.